so looking very green, as we can see. Looking just the part. We just move this down here. So there we go. So now we're just going to repeat what we did before, but this time, instead of using white paint to thin the colour, because it's a lighter colour, this time we're going to use a grey. So I'm just using a generic grey. This is actually, they call it a grey-green. It's not, it's just a grey, but it's the Revell 055. I've already got it knocked up in here, so I just need to give it a bit more of a mix. Okay, so what it does, the point of lightening it with a grey is it stops it. It sounds stupid, but it says it stops it going a lighter shade of. It just changes the shade versus lightening it, because we don't technically want to lighten it too much, okay? So all we're going to do, exactly the same as we did before, it's thinned and everything else like that. So we're just going to come in here, you can just pop this under like that, okay? And we're just going to go in, I'm just going to randomly pick out little areas, centers of panels, working our way around different objects into the different bits. Okay, and we're just trying to change the shade of it and nothing else. Okay, so some things you might want to go over 2 or 3 times, other things perhaps once. Now we're going to do quite a lot of weathering with this particular little guy. This is that up and down motion we were talking about when you're doing anything on a vertical. Okay. But yeah, for this particular one, we're going to be adding chipping effects. We're going to be doing streaking, oil, things like that to give it that sort of war-torn look. Okay, but these are just the basics we want to always work with if we can. So we're just going to do this first light pass, pretty much just centers of patterns, perhaps a little bit of wiggles if you like around. Okay, then we're just going to come in here. So this is our sort of centre of panel one. Okay, just round like that, as I say, pick an area to grab it. And then hopefully you can see a little change in there. It's quite a nice little subtle effect. Okay, so we'll swap this guy down in here. And again, a little bit of uppy downy work. Put it back here. There isn't mass areas to do on this one, there's obviously a lot less. Okay. I'll work just around the tops of these engines to do it. Okay, happy with that. Then what we're going to do, we're going to add some more grey to that again. If we get the right colour top, that's the green, that's the grey. Like we did last time with the white, we're just going to up it again, but this time it's going to be very specific to the areas we go to. So we're not going to thin it. So again, we're just going to come in. So this is going to be quite grey, this colour now. Okay, so this is why you don't want to go everywhere with it. So this is our sort of a weathering effect or a stain or whatever you want to call it, like that. Okay, so if we just make our way around, as I say, a little bit tricky. Something this size. Okay, so what we're going to do, come through, get our nice colour coming in. I'm going to up the air pressure, because I want to get in nice and close. And all we're going to do is just going to pick out little areas this time. Okay, so we just perhaps round panels, but you know, it's those little Tetris things. The equivalent of this is on that bottom side where we were doing the darker grey, which actually looks quite dark in contrast with other colours. It's that type of effect, okay? So, but again, we're still going to try and be a little bit more precise with where this goes and where it doesn't. So these look like, you can see them under there, the sort of kick-ins or little areas. Okay, and this one is going to get a filter right over it, okay, because this will just lighten everything and blend it through. All right, so that's what the whole point to this is over. All right, so we're just going to do the same in these bits down in here. Put some colour work. Just try and speed this up just a little bit. But again, it's just a case of trying to keep it very random if you can. Try not to do too much stuff that's gonna look a little bit overdone. Okay, so we're just going to come over and again a little bit just over the top, and we can just do a little bit around the body. Okay, just try and keep it as random as you can all over. Every now and again, just clean out your airbrush. Clear the needle of any build-up that you might get, so just pull the trigger all the way back and then over the top. Okay, just to weather that in, I think that's the last one, just around here. Just over it like that. Okay, so that's really happy with how that is. So we're just going to take that all out just for a moment. Blow that right the way through. Okay, then what we're going to do, just come back with, that's the great thing with these, when you chuck them around they don't flood everywhere. We just got the original colour neat, alright, and we're just going to put in a few little touch-ups. So by touch-ups, we're thinking these access panels, probably going to get some work over them. So we're just going to put some green paint all over them, as if they get a little bit of work. Okay, some little touch-ups here, there and everywhere. Again, little squiggles and things going on. Perhaps an area that gets a bit more paint. Okay, and this is all we're trying to do now, just break this up. When you're pulling the trigger and nothing happens, just come off and just manoeuvre in. We've got a riveting detail down there. And just trying to keep this very random and light. nice uppy downy things we were talking about, just for those areas, and this will just all give that illusion of weathered and streaking. Every now and again, just clear the needle, give it a bit of a wipe. Okay, make sure the prongs are clean as well. Okay. Okay. So we just do this last bit in here. Okay, again, just a quick blend over. There we go, just like that. That's going to take care of that. We're just going to put some airbrush cleaner in this and a quick swill. And we'll give it a proper deep clean shortly, but that'll do just for the moment, just to get things going. Okay, so there we go. That is it. So being a little bit careful now, we can unmask. Alright, so the reason for unmasking is because obviously the longer you've got your tape on, the more risk you've got of peeling and things like that. Okay, so if you're going to get your tape off, get it off sooner than later. But at the same stroke, you don't want to be putting handprints all over it just to get it off, just for the sake of it. Alright, so just try and, actually pretty good, all of this. So as you can see, we've got lots of unmasking to do. Okay, so we can hopefully make our way around a lot of this, like so. Okay, so if we just do this one wing for the moment, you can see here the difference in colour we've got, but as I say, don't be too disheartened if it's a mass difference in colour, because obviously we can blend, we can do lots of different techniques to bring this together. Okay, so we're just going to take that one off, and then we can do the same with this guy. Okay, again down here. So I'm amazed the tail wheel is still on. It's taking a very large battering. Okay, so we're just going to try and get in here as best as we can. Just avoiding your photo etch and all those bits you took so long to put on. Around the engine off. Got a tiny little bit of bleed through. It was a particularly wet coat, but the thing is, it was doing good, so I wasn't actually that worried about it. But initially, there we go, that's our difference in the wing, as you can see. It's actually quite a contrast colour, but you can see that weathering now has all come together. By the time it's got the decals on and it's weathered in heavily and everything else, because don't forget, we've still got to come in with washes, we've still got to come in with all the different bits and pieces to really bring this to life, and that will darken them with every pass we make. Okay, so I'm just trying to get in here the best we can. Okay, see if we can get this guy off the top. Okay. Okay, so one little area where we're going to have to do a small touch up, which is probably why I shouldn't have got the paint out, is here. You might be able to see we've got a little blemish here, so that's easy. We can just remask the green and just come in with a lighter colour. We've got a slight little bit of overspray down there, okay, so we can take care of that as well at the same time. So we're just going to unmask all of these, okay. But generally, as you can see, we're actually looking very, very good. Don't worry too much about this being a light green. I know I'm looking at it thinking it's a light green, but I know for a fact by the time it's had washes and weathering, and we can put a filter over this, which is basically a very thin black, just to take it all down a notch and everything else. So I'm going to unmask this one, touch in that little area, have a final look around it, any more weathering we want to do, but generally really happy of how this paint has performed. It's the first time we've used this particular brand of paint, and it has actually worked exceptionally well. Okay, so we've done a couple of little touch-ups. To be honest, we've just tightened up this particular bladey bit down here. We had sort of the wrong angle, it's too wide, and that's the great thing when you're doing splinter camo. If it doesn't look quite right when you unmask it, you can simply come back in, a few little adjustments, just adjust the camo and everything else. But hopefully you can see, looking pretty good. Both sides all done now. Looking the part, really happy how it came out. It's all nicely down, really happy with the paint. Worked an absolute treat, no problems with that at all. Okay, so next up, what we've got to do is think about obviously decaling and moving on with that. One of the things I'm currently looking at is we have the decal sheet like this, and we have these two big white ones, which are going to be these ones down the side here. Each side is going to have them. The trouble is, when you're using a white decal, normally they're not very good, if we're honest. They tend to be very translucent. By translucent, it means when you're going over a camo pattern, between dark and light especially, what can happen is that you actually see the difference as it goes through. So it's not technically like a painted on one. You're not going to get the painted on effect. Now I've measured it, and it just so happens they're 10mm. And we've got 10mm Tamiya tape to use as a guide. So what I'm thinking is to come along and actually place this 10mm tape exactly where it's going to be, and then we can come along and mask to both sides of this tape, okay, remove the middle tape, spray it white, job's good, we're all sorted and all done. Now this is still a little bit wet up here at the top, but we should be fine to do this. So what we need to do is work out exactly where this is. Now it works on both sides, are independent from each other, so you're not going to be trying to wrap around, so it should be theoretically pretty straightforward. Now we know it goes from up here, from the antenna mark downwards. Unfortunately, because all the sanding and filling we've done, we don't have an antenna mark left, okay? So we're gonna have to sort of second guess where that is. Now I'm assuming it's on top of this first window section just down here, okay, that's sort of gonna wrap up. So that's what we're gonna go for. So what I'm going to do is we're gonna make a slight mark up here at the top, okay? And what we're gonna do is just gonna wrap the tape around like so, and really just have a look to see what we've got. Does it look like the actual part? Now the only thing is I can see immediately is that it's going to come under here, so that's not what we want. So we know it's not that type of angle. All right, so we know it's further back than that. So again, we're just going to have another play. So we're sort of going to come from back here. All right, and we're going to wrap around. And again, once again, the bottom is not quite there. All right, so we know it's a bit more than that. Okay, so what I'm thinking is we're just going to come in with a far type of stronger angle, and actually that doesn't look too bad at all. Okay, so looking at that and looking at this, actually I think we're pretty much there. Pretty happy of where that is. I'd like it to come closer to the front here, but the angle that it's coming down at, I don't know. Very tricky to say. The trouble is when you're looking at a two-dimensional drawing like this, obviously it's flush on. We're dealing with a curved surface, so it's all going to curve around and everything else like that. I think I'm going to go with my gut here and put that in. The reason for doing that is it's a slightly different angle from the top one and here, but I don't know, I think that's as close as we're going to get. I'm going to have one more shot at it and see what we get. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this underline area just down here as my basis. Okay, and then what I'm going to try and do is come across the different angles, perhaps more like that. Actually, there you go. Always pays to have one more go. That's what we want. Okay, so we've got it where it's just missing the edge here, it's missing the corner of the window, okay, and it goes up. So I'm really happy how that one is. So now what we do is to mask technically both sides of it. I'm going to use 10mm tape again, so we're just going to replace with what we've got. Okay, so all we're going to do is going to go just and literally try as damn it to follow exactly what we've already got down here. Okay, so it's a case of a little technique I do, it's called stretching. Stretch the tape as much as you can, and that way you'll get a very nice curve with it as you're going around. Okay, now we know it's only going to go half distance because we'll have to cut it in, so we're going to do the same on the other half. Okay, just going to come in. Obviously you don't want to overlap it, otherwise you're going to end up having real problems. Okay, but you need it to be as damn close as you can, otherwise if you don't get it close, what's going to happen is you're going to have a wavy line. Alright, so then when you remove the middle bit, that is our target. So I'm just going to give that a good rub to be masked onto, to be painted just like that. So that gives us that type of effect. So what we're going to do, just for a moment, we're just to trim this up because we want it obviously to look nice. What we're going to have to do is just trim the middle. So we're just going to use this. And we're going to use this. I'm just going to take this off because I think it's scratching the bottom a bit. Okay, so we've got to try and find the middle of everything as it comes down here. So I'm thinking somewhere like that. Here's the midpoint. Alright, so then we're just going to make a small incision. I'm going to cut the decals. The lead one, obviously, you don't really have to worry about. It's mainly the trailing one, so you don't get an overlap. Okay, because then the next one obviously is going to go down the other side. But we need to trim these in. And also the other thing as well, it will give us our focal point to be able to physically line it all up again, totally in the right place. Okay, so we're just going to come down here. Okay. And again, it's not so much a problem with the rear one, it's mainly these front ones. Okay, but it'll just make things a lot easier. Alright, so now we've got to try and do is repeat the other side. Okay, so we'll just do exactly the same for the other side and then we can paint it white. Okay, so really looking good, as you can see, masked up. Really happy of how that's all lying down. Again, make sure you over mask. You're coming in with a different colour. It's going to be white. It's going to cause problems. Okay, good old shake in here. Now, normally I would come in with Tamiya, but if I'm honest with you, I'm out. Well, I have got some, but it's not nice. All right, so what we're going to do is come in with the Model Air. Now, Model Air is a bit thinner, so you want to lightly build up the layer. Don't go chucking it in like you would with our normal way, okay, of neat paint, because otherwise it's going to cause loads of problems. All right, so we're just going to very lightly coming in and try and keep it localized. We haven't masked the wings and things like that, but certainly don't try and overspray your wings. I know it sounds like an obvious thing, but trust me, the amount of times I've had to pop round and redo things. Okay, so just as soon as it's looking a little bit wet, we're just going to move off. Okay, just drying down, but usual problems with this, it's so big. And if you can, try and hit it from 90 degrees. Once you've got a bit of paint on there, you can go in a little bit heavier. It doesn't matter if you get bleed through too much down the panel lines, because obviously we're going to come in and give this a wash. Okay, just the last bit, just under here. Okay. And obviously, if you can, you want some of the paintwork to show through, just to give it a nicer look. Okay, so there we go. That's that one done. Nice, straightforward, no real problems. As you can see, it's just one of those things. We're going through the sort of stages with it. We're going to let that dry. So it needs a second coat. We'll give it a second coat, unmask it, and then, he says, and we have got a little bit of overspray down here, which isn't too much of a problem, but it's just where it's airborne. Okay, what we can actually do then is basically start to think about getting the decals on, and then start to get it together. But for the moment, let that dry. Needs a second coat. Give it a bit. Then we can unmask it. I'm going to give it a complete coat of clear right the way over it in preparation for decaling, and then we get on with the decaling.